There was a woman that had released a video that had basically broke down how she was making $190,000 a year at Meta, practically doing nothing. And then there was a turn of events, and that turn of events basically led to her being fired or laid off. But I believe that she was able to finesse this and basically move this into a space to where she was able to capitalize off of it, possibly start her own business. And I think she's doing something like career finesse or something like that. I don't know. I'll try to look for it and put it in the description for y'all to be able to tap into her content or whatever like that. But I want to share a couple different videos from this woman that talks about what life is like working at Meta, or what life was like working at Meta, and then why she got fired. Make sure that you guys get a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's rock out.
What did we do all day? That is a great question. When I was working at Meta and I was a recruiter and we weren't expected to hire anybody for the first 6 months, even the first year, this is something they tell you when you start. That really blew my mind. I was like, perfect. I'm just going to ride this out for a year. Obviously, I didn't make that, but you know.
So the first question that I have for you guys, not even as it relates to her, but for you guys is, did you know that there were companies, I'm not so sure now because it sounds like that they're trying to cull the ranks and they're trying to clean things up a little bit more and not have these companies to be so bloated to where they're just giving away an egregious amount of money for people not necessarily doing anything. But did you know that there were people out here making $190,000, working from home, not necessarily doing anything, not being required to do anything? Here's the other question that comes along with that. Do you think that this is the fault of the company, or do you think that this is the fault of the employee not continuing to take initiative, or the company empowering them by saying that, hey, you guys don't necessarily, we're not expecting anything of you going forward? And here's the other question. If you are making $190,000 a year, doing nothing, working from home, chilling, well, we haven't gotten to that point in the video. We'll continue. Stick around. Hit a like for the YouTube algorithm. Come on, let's roll.
So what do you do all day? You're learning. They have a really amazing onboarding and training, the best onboarding and training I've seen from any company ever. It could have been better, but it was still very thorough. The expectations when you start is really that you're just learning and taking it all in because you're drinking from a fire hose. I hate that. I hate that phrase so much. But the most that we did, this is the crazy part, is we had so many team meetings. Why are we meeting? We're not hiring nobody. Just to hear.
If you're making $190,000 and we are living in the most coddled society that I've ever can in history can think of. I mean, man, listen, you're making an egregious amount of money. Do you care like how many meetings that you have to go through? Like, do you got something else that you need to be doing, or something else that's going on? Like, it's the perspective that gets me. And it's like, yo, if I work you to death, then you're gonna feel like that I'm giving you purpose and that you're important. But if you're able to be a lot more coddled and move the way that you're moving, then you're gonna sit here and hold me accountable for making things too comfortable for you. If you're making 190 bands a year and you're not even having to do nothing, or you're just going through the training process so that you can eventually ramp up a year from now to actually be able to do the job more effectively, I expect for you to be in the meetings enthusiastic. I mean, I want you to be excited about whatever the meeting is about that we got going on. All you got to do is go and listen and then contribute and talk and learn and all of this stuff. They basically paying you 190 bands to learn their culture and to learn their processes. What you sitting there complaining about? I don't understand that.
Hear how everybody else wasn't hiring anybody. And also, I was on a team where everybody was new, so none of us were hiring anybody. We were all just like trying to figure out things. None of us knew the answers to. We would ask my boss, she'd be like, I don't know, because she was new too. I really miss it. I wasn't doing shit pretty much. That was nice. I missed it.
So let me share this next video. This is the before, and this is the after.
Every time I talk about my experience at Meta and how I hated it and how they fired me after 6 months, the number one question I get is, why did I get fired?
How did you hate an experience where you were getting paid and you was balling? How do you look? It's people that get paid nothing and they do well on everything. I am so perplexed. How did we get to this point in our society? And again, this is not an indictment on her. This is more or less a perspective based off of how it is that I see things going within our society in general. I don't know how we got to this place. How do we get to this dark space where now it's a bad thing to be paid an egregious amount of money to not necessarily do anything, and then you hated the experience? Or are we bitter as a result of what happened as a result of the experience? But let me go ahead and finish playing this so you can understand how she got fired, according to her.
I feel like I have to talk about this at least once a quarter, so here we go. I started Meta at, was it September, October of 2021. It was cool. I was like, oh my God, I love social media. I didn't have a following then. I didn't even have a TikTok.
She does have personality, though.
After I started my job at Meta, I posted a TikTok about Meta and my benefits. I would always see
Rule number 1. Understand the world by which you live in. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot and should not. That's probably the better word that we're using. You should not. And you should probably be more aware, even if you don't understand the world in which you live in or the spaces in which you work. You should not ever put yourself in a position to fumble the bag. Stop fumbling the bag. Stop fumbling the bag. Stop fumbling the bag. Let me say it one more time. Stop fumbling the bag. Put your phone down. You do not have to post everything that's going on at your job or in your personal life if it is not actually translating. And again, this ain't even got nothing to do with her per se. This has something to do with using this example for you because she might have landed on her feet. I don't know if she's making the type of money that she was making at Meta. Who knows, right? All I can do is react to the video. But you guys your phones are getting you in trouble and you are fumbling the bag. And so I need you guys to put your phone up and stop finding yourself in a position to where now you got eyes on you. Now the company is starting to watch all of your social media. Now the company is paying attention to what the heck you're doing. Now they want to know if you've broken any rules and they're going through all of the guidelines and the bylaws and they got to get the lawyers on it and all this other type of stuff. And go in, make your money, and go home, man. Go home. You ain't never, ever seen me go in and record, outside of taking your daughter to work day or whatever like that. Man, I ain't nobody talking about until after I left, after I had made the strategic. I was so strategic that I didn't even start the second channel after hours until after I had got out of the restaurant business because I didn't want the business to be affected by what it was that I was saying on social media. So everything was intentional. But a lot of these people get these big jobs or whatever, and they go and they see somebody else on TikTok or social media making it my day at work, and then they start doing the same thing. You ain't read the paperwork that you signed. You ain't did none of that. But neither here nor there. Let's continue to hear this.
see these day in the life videos and they'd be so cool of like people going into the Google office and the Facebook office. And I worked remotely, so I didn't have like free food and all that other stuff, but I had a really amazing benefits package. So I made a TikTok. It just happened to go viral. It was like maybe my third TikTok I've ever made. And I usually never talked about work before this, and I never talked about recruiting because to me work was work. And I thought that was obvious. So anyways, I talk about benefits at Meta and it goes viral. And then I get a bunch of questions. People think it's like an ad for Meta to work there. I was just sharing my benefits because they give you $4,000 in baby cash. If you
If you winning, just win. If you winning, just keep winning. But if it comes along with the possibility of you fumbling the bag as a result of it,
have a baby, they will give you $4,000. I just thought that was crazy. And they gave you, at the time, $3,000 for childcare reimbursement, which for childcare is nothing, but it's also better than nothing. You know what I mean? Anyways, so it went viral. A lot of people who worked at Meta saw it. It wasn't a big deal. They were like, oh my God, I loved your video. Until it was a big deal. And then they stopped loving my video. I got written up for something that was on my story. I wasn't necessarily
now you got to put the phone. Listen, you got written up for something that was on your story. Now, the number one thing that you need to do is you need to put the phone down. Put the phone, unless you're willing to risk it all, and which obviously she was willing to risk it all. But I think that people are just truly addicted to these things. These things are going to be the end of us. They are going to be the end of us. These devices, these phones, these cameras, TikTok is the devil. It's going to be the end of us, you know?
Talking crap about the company, but I was just sharing how challenging it was working there because
now she's making the company look bad, talking about, I wasn't talking crap about the company. I'm just talking about how challenging it is to work there. And they're going to go for that. They're going to go for that. The company wants that out there. If you being on, they're paying you. So they're paying you. And they're the ones that's keeping you employed. They're giving you all of these awesome benefits and everything like this. And she said, and then they stopped liking it, was possibly because you weren't painting the company in a positive light. First of all, you put the target on your back by making yourself talk about it, not understanding that they chase all of the hashtags. They're looking at everything that goes viral and all of that other type of stuff, right? And so you put that out there. And then now you're talking about how, quote unquote, challenging it is to work at the company, and you don't expect for them to be able to pay attention to something like that. Okay.
as a recruiter, you reach out to people and they would just like cuss you out. I posted about that on my story. I got written up for that. I was like, people are watching my story. Mind you, I did not have followers at this point. I think I had like maybe 2,000 followers on Instagram.
So you did it for the 2,000 followers. Okay.
So I was shook. I was scared. But I was posting content on TikTok that had to do with like recruiting and careers, but not Meta. Specifically.
So you shook, you scared, but you're not shook enough or scared enough to actually put the phone down. So my question is, are people really like addicted to the point to where it'll even become self-destructive and you're willing to fumble your bag over the possibility of, like, why not just go and start talking about food recipes or where it is that you visited or your travels and the bad handbag that you recently bought and stuff like that? Like, why go into something that you're still getting written up for? Why post something that has to do with what it is that you do for a living or your career or the company culture or you getting cussed out or whatever like that? Why do that at all? Just completely detach and disassociate yourself with that type of content until you're in a position to be able to do so. If you're getting written up for something.
Really not Meta, because at this point I had gotten talked to about my social media at Meta 3 times, three different occasions. So I was like, I'm not going to talk about this company at all. They even asked me to talk about the company on LinkedIn and to share about our hiring. They even wanted me to host a workshop on how to use LinkedIn to build your personal brand.
They had talked to you 3 different times. I wouldn't even be talking about anything related to what it is that I did that was happening at the company, not talking about the company. Just stay out of it.
At Meta, simultaneously complaining about my social media. It was insane. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just not going to talk about the company. So one day I get a call from legal. This is my 3rd time. So I already knew what was going on. At this point, I was so miserable because I felt like I couldn't even talk. I felt like I couldn't post on my stories. I couldn't post on TikTok.
So you was miserable because you couldn't pick up your phone and talk about the things that you wanted to talk about on social media. You were miserable because you couldn't pick up your phone and talk about the things that you wanted to talk about on social media. You couldn't post to TikTok. You couldn't post to your Instagram stories. And so you felt miserable as a result of it. I mean, come on, y'all. Let's break it down frame by frame and let's really take this thing in. This is our lives now. We are so immersed. Yo, I can't wait for the Apple Vision Pro to come out and for y'all to be walking around looking like whole fools. Not a half a fool, but a whole fool. I can't wait for y'all to be walking around looking like whole fools out here in these streets. I can't wait. I just cannot wait for y'all to be out here at work talking about this is what I do at my job without authorization and permission and all of that. And you got the whole immersive experience and you getting fired as a result of that. I can't wait for y'all to be out here in these streets.
I felt like I was being watched all the time. Because every time I would post something, my boss would be like, hey girl, come on.
So if your boss is like, yo, listen, they watching you.
On the call with legal, they go through 20 of my TikToks, 20 of them, to ask me if they were appropriate. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever experienced. So, anyways, I knew I was gonna get fired, so I quit, and then they fired me the next day.
Okay, now I'm confused. I knew I was going to get fired, so I quit, and then they fired me the next day. I'm genuinely confused. Let me just rewind that last part really quickly.
I knew I was gonna get fired, so I quit, and then they fired me the next day.
Did I miss something? No, honestly, I'm trying to understand. Did I miss something? I knew I was going to get fired, so I quit, and then they fired me the next day. I am so confused. I am so confused. I am very, very perplexed right now. I'm not sure what I'm listening to, what I'm watching. What's up, ladies? Come on to the front of the congregation. Come on to the front of the congregation. What's up, ladies? You see that? Is went from dark outside to light outside. We got the haze over from Canada, from the wildfires and all this other type of stuff. I got confused from night to day. From sunset to sunrise, I'm still confused. We started this whole live stream, this whole premiere that you guys are watching right here, this whole video that's going on right here. I was confused when I started it. I'm still confused. 3 to 4 stories in, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna get any clarification going forward. But it's okay. It's okay.